James, you had mentioned, I think 2 weeks ago maybe, that you were going into these early games with specific plans about things you wanted to get done as you go into them. Now that you're on the bye week, what were some of those things that you feel like you got them done?
Yeah, obviously with 3 new receivers, getting those guys, comfortable and building chemistry with Drew, we thought was important, and I think we've done a pretty good job of that. We still obviously have work to do. And then obviously just the confidence in the execution of the new stuff on defense, so that we can play fast. It's one of the things we've done a really good job here is playing fast, and specifically on the defensive side of the ball, and I think we're getting there. But we still have work to do really in both areas. They're probably the 2 biggest.
James, can you take us through what your goals are recruiting-wise during a bye week, and maybe what your schedule and the staff schedule is like?
Yeah, so we'll watch the film tonight, do some recruiting calls. Tomorrow, obviously, we practice again. I think tomorrow night I go out, and then I'll be out all day Thursday. We'll have a coordinators practice like we have had in the past on Thursday, and any of the coaches that are not on the road. And then Friday we'll all be out recruiting. The players will, after their academic responsibilities, be off. Recruit all day Friday, go to some games Friday night, and then do the same thing Saturday. And then players will be off Saturday, and then we'll get back sometime Saturday night, and then Sunday's game week. So obviously Sunday will be a little bit ahead because we won't have the last game for us to grade. We will still have to grade their film, break their film down, and add that to our cut-ups and things like that. But that's essentially the week. We'll have a very similar practice tomorrow that we had today, and then Thursday has been a coordinator practice, mainly a jog through, but we're gonna do a little bit of full speed stuff. We'll do half and half full speed and half jog through. Get all the 4 main core special teams units, work heavy special teams practice day, and then be able to get a head start on normal downs, third down, and red zone.
James, kind of follow up on that. What is like the balance between intensity during a bye week? Like obviously you want to get the guys some rest, but at least today for the media viewing session, that was kind of the most intense practice I've seen this year. So what is that kind of balance?
Today was?
Well, from what I saw.
Good. Glad you felt that way. This is a week to get better. We've always, Tuesdays and Wednesdays have been work days. That's how it will be for us. That's how it should be all season, whether it is a bye week or not. And really where the bye week comes in is having Thursday be a reduced load, Friday nothing, Saturday nothing. That's where they really gain their time. So for us, we got to get better. It's still very early in the season. We got a lot of things we need to improve on fundamentally. There's a lot of things we need to improve on from a schematic standpoint. And then obviously there's some veteran players that we'll have a separate plan for because they've played a ton of football and know what they're doing. So you got to be smart with some of those guys. But the majority of our team needs to get better. So everybody got reps today, but some guys were modified.
Drew, how do you handle the anticipation going into the bye week and then going into your first ranked opponent of the season? Like, what's that like in the locker room, day in and day out?
So what are you asking me again?
So, like, what's the anticipation like going into a bye week, but then you're going against like your first ranked opponent of the season? Like, how do you handle like the team's anticipation going into that game?
Yeah, bye week, we're focused on Penn State. We're getting a head start, obviously, on Oregon, but I'd say it's 50% focusing just on Penn State and getting better, and 50% on getting a head start on our opponent. And then next week should be the same as it was week 1 and week 2 and week 3 inside our football facility. Obviously all the other stuff outside the building we can't control, and we embrace it, but our process should not change. You should come week 1. If you were invited to spend the week with us, you should not sense the difference whether it's week 1 or week 4 or however you describe one opponent or however you describe another opponent. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about us. It's about how we prepare, our intensity, our focus. That's it. It should not change. Now, is there other stuff outside the building that we can't control? Is it human nature to a degree? Yeah, I get all that. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to maximize each day and get better and try to tune out as much of that outside noise as possible. And you guys, I bring it up to you guys. You guys don't necessarily like to want to talk about it a whole lot, but there's a ton of teams that week in and week out aren't beating the teams they're supposed to beat. There's upsets all over the country. So for us, that's important for us to keep our process as consistent as we possibly can, while also getting better to put ourselves in a position to win games like we have coming up.
Hey James, you mentioned everyone got reps today. I know you're in the middle of that development from the training camp to the kind of the game 5 mark where you're looking for some of those young guys maybe to be part of the plan later on. So how is that development going, and how much is this week important for that?
Yeah, it's very important. I'd say it's a mix, right? It's frustration with some guys that I think could help us come the middle of the season on, and the coaches seem to have a greater sense of urgency to get them ready than they do. And then there's other guys, that are ready to take that next step. Like, for example, Andy Kotelnicki talked about Tyseer after practice today. Tyseer looked like a guy who is very hungry to play and to get on the field and make a difference. And guys like that, I don't know when it's going to be, but his number is going to get called at some point, and he's going to be ready. And then there's other guys that are complaining that they should be playing, and their parents are sending text messages, and they're going to get in the game and won't be ready, and then we won't hear anything from anybody. So there's a little frustration with that, but there always is, and it's a small percentage. And what I want to make sure as coaches, and myself included, that you don't get frustrated with the 2% compared to the 98% guys that are doing it the right way.
James, you mentioned the wide receivers earlier. How have the transfer receivers performed relative to your expectations?
Yeah, I would say probably up to my expectation, with flashes of above my expectations and a few flashes below. I think that each one of them has had, a game or games where they've shown what they really can do. Our job is to help them continue in each week to get better, so that in the games that we got coming up, they can have significant roles for us. And the reality is what we're going to need is we're going to need Devontae Ross to have a really good season and to have 2 or 3 games where everybody's talking about him. And we need Hudson to do the same thing. And what you hope is that you have multiple games where they're doing it together, and you have a few games where they're doing it on their own. I met with a group of those guys today about not just the receivers, tight ends, running backs, quarterbacks. The reality is, say you got 12 of those guys when you count all 3 tight ends, 2 running backs, quarterbacks, the receivers that we're talking about. If all those guys make the plays that they're supposed to make, and then if each one of them makes one special play a game where they bring something more to the table than the O-line or the scheme got them, we're going to be in good shape. Again, you're talking about, when you talk about the tight ends and the receivers and the running backs, that's 8 special plays a game. That adds up quick. And then just the consistency. So, I don't look at like a contested catch as a special play. We got to make those. People call them 50-50 balls. They should not be 50-50 balls on the offense when you know where the ball's going and where the ball location should be. And we got to have that mentality that we're going to make those plays. So that's what this week is about, is continue building that confidence and that chemistry. We had a big 3rd down emphasis today because on offense and defense, we need to be better on 3rd down. So that was a big emphasis for us today, and we'll do that again tomorrow.
James,
more
when you
guys.
guys kind of look at the 3-game sample size with Drew, where do you think there's room for growth for him, or what are some of the things that he's doing that maybe we don't see or that people aren't recognizing?
Yeah, I think the management, Kodolnicki puts a ton on his plate in the run game, in the pass game, in protections. He's done a really good job of that. Kind of like what we just talked about with the receivers. There's been 3 or 4 throws that we should be making, and we got to make sure that that's happening week in and week out, every single game. And then just like the play that he had to Pena, he can make some throws that very few people on the planet can make. So the same discussion I just had with, about the receivers and the running backs and the tight ends, same thing at the quarterback position. We got to make the plays consistently that we're supposed to make, and then through all Drew's hard work and his God-given ability, he's got to make 4 or 5 of those difference-making plays a game, whether it's with his feet or whether it's with his mind or whether it's with his arm, and he is more than capable of doing that. So it's the consistency, it's the comfort with the wideouts, it's the comfort with the tight ends. Obviously we've lost Tyler Warren. That sucker's still doing it, right? Yeah. You turn on the TV, he's still doing it. And we need more guys to step up like that, that are going to consistently make plays, and that's all of them. That's all the offensive players. But in terms of all the things that we ask him to do, he's been phenomenal. And I anticipate and expect him to really have a good week this week, and expect him to have a good week next week and moving forward. And I've been pleased with him overall.
James, getting on the road this weekend into the whiteout next weekend, which is traditionally a huge recruiting weekend, how much of a difference can these 10 days make in establishing the next generation of Penn State players?
Yeah, it's very important. As you know, you go back to our current roster and you think about all the players that are on our roster now that were a part of coming to these whiteout games and having a great experience. It's one of those games that you hear players all over the country talking about, wanting to be a part of this type of atmosphere. I think about when I first got here, how many guys were on the roster that were part of the 4 overtime whiteout. I think about how viral the Michigan first play of the game, timeout or delay a game deal, how viral that was. There's been a lot of special moments, right? So it is very, very important for our future, but it's also challenging, right? We're going to have 250 scholarship players on campus, and we're going to have 50 of the top players in the country, and we also got to make sure they have a good experience. And it's hard. It's hard to make sure that everybody gets some love and everybody gets some time on game day. So we've put out word asking people in the athletic department that could help us. So we have more hands on deck, more manpower to help us, just so that everybody has a good experience. Sometimes people underestimate. They've been to other places for game day visits. I'm not going to mention the places, but they drive right up to the stadium. They're like, it was wonderful. We just drove right up to the game. I said, well, you felt that when you got inside it, right? And then they get here and they're frustrated with traffic. Well, you got to leave early enough and you got to get here. And then obviously it's a good thing for our community, but the challenges with hotels and everything else. Everything is sold out. You got people calling now, and I'm like, this game's been sold out forever. I got cousins that I haven't talked to in 20 years and high school friends I haven't talked to in 25 years that, hey, you got a whiteout ticket? Yeah, they're just laying around. So there's some challenges that come with it, but it's first world problems, right?
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.